Good afternoon, my name is Jordan Soose. Today we will be talking about empowering partnership, the IEP process, and family and school collaboration. Within this journey, we're going to dive deeper into the IEP process. We will explore how families and schools can work together to empower a student with special needs, and the partnership that the school and the families can take together for a better educational outcome for our students. So looking at the importance of the IEP process, first we need to look at the purpose of the IEP. It's to aim to meet the unique needs of the students with special needs. So diving into it, it is something that is required by the state and federal laws. All students that are qualifying in special education must have an IEP program. They must have IEP goals put into place that connect to the disability that they have. Not all IEP things have to have a accommodation or a modification. Those are part of the process, and those are things that we need to look at and address within the IEP planning for a student. Again, as I said, it is a legal thing that we have to have. The federal government has passed down IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This is a protection for students with special education needs. Ensuring that they are getting the appropriate support that will have better outcomes in the school. There are many things that go on with IDEA, such as family involvement, school involvement, teacher involvement, those type of things. Things to keep in mind within an IEP do need to have present levels of performance. Some districts may call this the PLAF, but it is discussing how they have progressed through their year of learning. And as I said before, they do need to have goals that are tied to their disability. Some students may need accommodations, and some students may need some extra tailored supports, such as related services, assistive technology. They may need orientation and mobility. They may need physical therapy. They may need speech therapy to help them become very successful with their educational process. Within the IEP team, we want this to be a fairly diverse group as much as possible. So you're going to want to have teacher input. When we're looking at teacher input, we're looking at all teachers that have an educational need with the student. You'll have your parents. They're a very integral part of the process. I used to say that the parents know the student best. I'm changing some of my thought processes and now saying that the student knows themselves the best. And so we want to start incorporating the students into the IEP process as much as possible to allow for them to have their voice heard and they're able to speak what's going on with them. Also, you need to have your special educators. If it's an initial ARD, you're going to have your evaluation team a part of the IEP process. They need to be able to speak to the evaluation data points that they have taken, such as cognitive abilities, academic abilities, looking at other areas. When you're talking about a student with specific learning disability, for instance, those students must have an observation performed as well, where the evaluator goes in and observes them in their education environment, particularly looking at where we are specifically testing that child as well. So if the request was a specific learning disability in reading, you want to be able to go in there during the child's reading time and be able to observe that class time. Or if it's writing, you want to go in for the writing time. Typically, most evaluators like to do the observation before they have met the students, so that when they go in, the student doesn't necessarily know who they are and does not realize that they are there for them. And then you may have other evaluators, like a school psychologist, who goes in and they will work on behavioral sides of things. They may look at autism. They may be looking at emotional disability, which also does encompass anxiety, depressions, those types of things, not just your ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder, children, those type of things. So they're looking at all the different behaviors and emotional disability, which that category has changed. It used to be called emotional disturbance. It's now emotional disability. Another new thing that the state of Texas has done this year has they have brought in developmental delay. Many other states have recognized developmental delay. We are now in our infancy of recognizing developmental delay, and it will be rolled out completely for the state of Texas in the next year. And the non-categorical early childhood disability is no longer going to be recognized after this school year. So we do want to have all these different people working collaboratively and discussing the child, discussing what's best for the child, what's needed for the child. Also keeping in mind that when a child turns 14, we start looking at transition, which is looking at what career they're interested in, and we start to have them explore those career options as well. So to get us going today, have put together a poll, and I want to better understand your understanding of the IEP process and your knowledge of the IEP. So I'll shoot that poll out in just a moment, and we'll look at the data that comes back on that. We'll discuss and clarify any misconceptions that you may have in the IEPs. And then this will also help me understand your knowledge in maybe the gaps that you may have and the strengths that you have within the IEP, and so I can clear up any misconceptions that may be out there. So here's my interactive presentation. I did it through Mentimeter, and so the welcoming slide, welcome to the IEP knowledge assessment, enhancing understanding of the IEP process. So my first question was, what is the primary purpose of an IEP? I gave 4 different options. 7 people in the room have answered with to outline educational goals for students with disabilities. I 100% completely agree with the 7 people that have answered that. The other question is to provide, or other answer choice, excuse me, is to provide a general curriculum for all students. I'm glad that nobody put that, because we're not looking at a general curriculum. We're looking at a specialized, specifically designed instruction for a student that has been identified with special needs. The other answer option was to replace standard testing procedures. We're not just looking at the standard testing procedures and just focusing in on that. Sure, that it may be a component, but it's not the biggest thing of the IEP. We are looking at if a child needs STAR Alt at some point versus taking the regular standardized STAR test. But that's not solely what we're looking at in just an IEP. And then the final answer option was to assess teacher performance. This is not about the teacher, not solely anyways. It is about the student and how they are performing, and how we as teachers can do more things to bring them up to the level that we know that they can achieve to. So I wanted you guys to rate yourselves based on the following statements on your IEP satisfactions. So the IEP process is clearly communicated. So A 0 is very dissatisfied, a 5 is very satisfied. The majority of people are rating themselves at a 4. They believe that the IEP process is clearly communicated to them. And I do wonder, do they believe that it's clearly communicated to the parent as well? A lot of times, I know at the middle school setting they don't deal with it quite as much, but in the elementary setting we have initial ARDs, and parents and families, though they get the ARD process paperwork and the procedural safeguards, it's a very thick book, and sometimes these parents don't have the time to read it. So it is very helpful to, when having an initial ARD, to gauge your parents and understand what they know, what their knowledge is of the IEP process, and give them a very well thought out explanation and maybe just kind of a good summary of those things. Typically in my IEP meetings, I'll ask the parent, I'll say, how familiar are you with the ARD process? Because in Texas we say ARD. And they'll say, no, I don't have any knowledge. So I'll explain to them that every year we have an annual meeting. I'll explain every 3 years we do a reevaluation to see where their weaknesses are and how they've been gaining better skills in those weaknesses, and if those weaknesses are now becoming strengths. I'll also talk about that they are an important member of the team, and we want their feedback. And we really encourage them to attend their meetings face to face whenever possible, but we do understand that sometimes it has to be by phone or it has to be by virtual, but we really don't want them to sign the waiver of opting out of coming to the meeting because it is their child. The IEP team is a collaborative and inclusive, and a lot of people answered with a 4, so they're pretty satisfied with this. They feel that it is a collaborative time, it is an inclusive time to show that we're all working together to fit what's best for our special education students. IEP reviews are conducted frequently enough. They feel very satisfied. It's a 4.3. It sounds to me like you guys really think that if ever you need to have a review ARD, it's called upon, it gets handled with what the student needs. The highest one is parental consent is adequately addressed. You guys are very happy with that, and understanding that getting that parent to come in and talk and be a part of it is very effective. So another question I asked was, how can the IEP process be improved? Because I do want to know, based on your feedback, how can we do things a little bit better? So one thing that somebody said was ensure staff and students and parents understand that ARD and IEP. So kind of reading into this, I think there may be some kind of confusion as to why we use the term ARD versus IEP. So IEP comes from federal government, ARD comes from Texas, and so in Texas we do our Texas thing to things, and so there's a little bit of forgiveness there. Should we be calling it the IEP process? Yes, we should, and there will probably be a shift in that here in the future where you'll start to see that the IEP process is what's being talked about, not the ARD process. Involving all stakeholders, that's an interesting thing to say, and I would be very curious as to getting some more insight into what that involving all stakeholders means to that person. It sounds like maybe some people on the team, when they send out their feedback inputs, may not be getting appropriate feedback from certain people. I know that coaches can be the worst about giving appropriate feedback because they're like, oh, they're in athletics, it's no big deal. They come out, they do what they're supposed to do, and I have no worries with them. Well, part of their academic day is the athletics and or PE, and so it is helpful to get feedback from those coaches, because maybe they are showing some behavioral concerns in PE or athletics, or maybe they are needing a little bit of more of an accommodation in some fashion, some shape or form. And then this process needs to be consistent district-wide. We need a better system to analyze, determine, and plan for our students. That is a very bold thing to have, and consistency across the districts should be something that is addressed. And my personal belief would be that maybe not just district-wide, but statewide. You know, if Johnny goes to one district and they do it their district style, and then Johnny's family moves to another district and now he's doing it that family style or that district style, if it's not aligned very well, then there could be some gaps that occur because of that. So that's a pretty important statement to say right there. Any additional feedback? Somebody put an interesting day to get this, so I'm wondering if y'all had some special education questions that were going on in the campus, and maybe that person wants to get with me after the presentation and we can talk about some of those things. So family and school partnership, let's talk about this a little bit more. The importance of involvement. So family involvement enhances the effectiveness of the IEP process, leading to better outcomes for the students. Again, going back to that family feedback, I know that when I was in the classroom teaching special education and sending out surveys to the staff, I was primarily only sending those out to the staff members. I was leaving out the family. I was not calling the family and saying, hey, what's going on with Johnny? How is he doing? What is he doing at home? How is he doing at home with you guys? Diving deeper, getting that collaborative response from the family at home. They do have a lot of insight, and as I said before, nobody knows the student better than the student, and I do 100% believe in that. And so asking the students, even at a young age, what works for you? What doesn't work for you in the classroom? You know, some kids, they don't handle being lectured to the entire time. They get better, they get a better education, they get better understanding when they dive deep and they're actually interacting and doing the activities and stuff like that. Getting that feedback from all different aspects and all different components is going to be a much better IEP process, and you'll find better outcomes. The benefits of partnership. Strong partnership results in improved communication and increased trust between families and schools. This, I think, is probably one of the key things that can drive an IEP meeting into the ground, is if there is not a trust that's been built between the family and the school. Keeping in mind that when you're talking to a family member, not using the acronyms, not using things like AU, your child has AU, your child has SLD, your child is BR, SLD, BR. They don't understand these terms, so we need to use simplified vocabulary so that they can understand what we are talking about, and everybody feels comfortable with the vocabulary and what we're saying. The other thing that can lead to mistrust is constantly changing things around and not following least restrictive environments, not following the guidelines that the state of Texas and the federal government have put into place through IDEA, those type of things. Challenges faced: addressing cultural differences, time constraints, and misconceptions helps overcome partnership challenges. One of the things that I'm starting to experience is cultural diversity. We're getting more and more families that are coming in from different areas of the world. We're getting, a higher Asian population. We're getting a higher Hispanic population. And if we don't understand their culture, then we can't understand their method and their thinking. So we need to dive deeper into what their culture has put into place and what their beliefs are, so that we can better align and also do what's best for their child. So strategies for effective collaboration: building a relationship, maintain open communication, and practice activate listening to build trust. So when you go into an IEP meeting, you don't want to go into this meeting with just what you're going to say, and you're not going to hear anything else. You need to listen to the family and what they're saying. You need to have that good open dialogue, and everybody needs to be listening. So you'll hear things like the family will say certain things like, well, Johnny really does better when I break down his chore list into smaller sections of what to do. And so it may not be that they've got, this long chore list and they're just breaking it down, but they maybe, when he has to take the trash out, okay, Johnny, first your step is go get the bag. You've done that. Tie the bag. Okay, now you've done that. Now walk the bag to the larger trash can, those type of things. And so they may be talking about finer chunks of doing things and doing it that way until they can do the larger chunk of the assignment. So that would also relate over into the classroom. Johnny can't do, 2 questions and then come and show the teacher what he's done. He needs it broken down. So if he's doing math, he's breaking it down into each individual step for the calculation, especially in multi-step math. Also talking about having that open-minded communication. I have a lot of people that are now putting together, because we're coming into a more digital world, they're putting together and sharing Microsoft Sheets and stuff like that with the families, so that it communicates how Johnny does in real time and with their behavior, so they can go to the sheet, input this in. The family has a read-only where they can see what the teacher's putting in real time, and that gives faster communication with the families. Also keeping in mind that sometimes an email doesn't go as far as you think it will, because words can be read and misinterpreted, and that will cause some trust issues. So sometimes picking up the phone and having a conversation with the parent is a lot better than just firing off an email. And remember that AI can sometimes do detriment to what you're trying to do. If you're using AI, I know a lot of teachers are starting to use Magic School, those type of things. I've run into issues where the parent didn't understand because AI didn't do what the teacher thought it was going to do. So family involvement, number 2, prepare the families for the meetings and encourage their active participation. As I said before, we really want them to participate, and we don't want them to waive their right to have the meeting or to be a part of the meeting. We really want them to be there. So prepping them beforehand. A lot of districts have taken to sending out the IEP goals and accommodations 5 days prior to the ARD meeting, so that the parents can review those goals beforehand and ask any questions that they may have about what's about to take place in the IEP meeting. Being culturally sensitive, again, that goes back to making sure that you understand their family belief systems and that sort of thing. Sometimes as an educator, I may not be able to communicate to a family about, hey, your child really needs an evaluation because they may be of Hispanic descent or Muslim descent or something like that, and they may have like a religious belief that says, no, we don't believe in evaluations, those type of things. But sometimes if I can bring in a person that is of their culture who can explain it, they get a little bit more on board and like, okay, this isn't really breaking any of our family beliefs. tech for communication, using digital tools to streamline communication and keep everyone informed. Again, going back to the Google Sheets or Google Word document, what have you. Keeping that, using technology as a tool to better assist the families in understanding what's going on with their child, because we are becoming more of a digital age. Society, culture, this is becoming more and more prevalent in what we have to do. So looking at best practices for teachers. Preparation, preparing thoroughly for the IEP meeting to ensure a smooth process. This is probably the most important thing you do. Don't wait to the last minute to prep for your IEP meeting. You need to have a plan ready to go before. You need to have that communication with the families well before you come into the meeting, because sometimes and many times they'll throw a hitch at you, and you don't want to be caught off guard and saying, okay, now we may have to table this meeting to get more data, those type of things. We want to make sure that we know what all is going on with the student, and that way we can prepare and have those conversations before the meeting. A lot of times families think that the IEP meeting is a parent-teacher conference, and that's the time to have a parent-teacher conference. No, this is not really the time to have a parent-teacher conference. This is the time to develop the plan for the child, and that's going to be the best plan moving forward for that student. All that other parent-teacher conferencing, all that stuff should have been done before the ARD meeting, or the IEP meeting, excuse me. Data collection, gather the relevant data and present it clearly to support the student's needs. As you're sending out your paperwork to the teachers, you need to remind them that this is important information that we must collect. We must report to it. It goes into the present levels for the child. The state of Texas can request to see what you have written, what has been written about the child. And so if you write in a non-professional manner, that can really come back to hurt the district, it can hurt the team, it can lead to mistrust with the families, and moving forward, it can make it very stressful for everybody involved with that family. So making sure that you're clearly conveying what's being presented to you. If you have questions, get clarification from the teachers. That goes back to that collaborative piece. Never be afraid to go and talk to the teacher and say, hey, you wrote this, I don't really understand what you mean by this. Can you clarify it, and can we put it in writing what you're clarifying? And collaboration, working closely with the team members to implement goals effectively. So yes, you're going to be talking to your core teachers. You're also going to be talking to elective teachers or specials teachers, getting that information, but don't forget the family at home. You've got to talk to them too. They have a vested stake in the child's learning process. If we forget the family, we have not done our job. So I've come up with another interactive element for us to do. We're going to break out into some small groups for this. And so the first part of things that I want you to do, I want you to focus in on coming up with strategies to work and communicate with the family that is facing language barriers. Any language barrier is going to be on the table. So a language barrier of Spanish communication, a language barrier of Asian communication, even sign language is a barrier that can occur. And so you need to keep that in mind. So I want you to think about how you would communicate with that family. What's going to be the best practice? What can we do that will make them involved, and how can we get it going? And you're not passing that buck off to, well, I'm just going to give it to this interpreter and they're going to do all the work after that. The next thing that we want to do is discuss the challenges. Identify potential challenges and brainstorm effective solutions collaboratively. So what problems are we going to run into? And how are we going to be ahead of that problem is what this question is asking me to do. And then finally, we're going to get back together. We're going to share our solutions with the group. And so every group will have an opportunity to talk and say what they came up with. And so I'll pass around some large paper, and you can have some markers, and you can jot down your ideas. So we will take about 10 minutes to do this because it is pretty lengthy, and after 10 minutes is up, I will walk around to the groups, see where you're at, and then we'll do a by hand signal if you need 5 more minutes, or you'll tell me you need 3 more minutes, or if you need 1 more minute, or everybody's done, I'll see a 0 from everybody, and that means that we'll come back together. So, in conclusion, our call to action. We talked about how the family is important for the school for the family to collaborate with the school to collaborate with the family, and also the importance of involving the child in the IEP process. More and more studies are coming out that says that by including the child and letting them know what's going on, and getting their voice and letting them know that, hey, it's okay that you've got something going on. It's not a bad thing, but it's a thing that makes you special and makes it so that we want to help you and we want you to help yourself. The child needs to be able to learn that they can advocate for themselves, not just in the school setting, but as they get older and it carries on into their work environment. If they're working at a grocery store, if they're working at a high Fortune 500 company, they need to know that they can still advocate because they've got rights that protect them. I was reading in a book the other day, or an article the other day, and the analogy was Johnny has a birthday coming up, and so he can hear his parents talking about this birthday, and they're inviting who they're inviting and who they're going to have at this birthday and what they're going to talk about at the birthday party and all this stuff. And so the day of the birthday comes around, and Johnny wakes up. He's getting up. He's all excited. He's like, "I'm gonna have my birthday today," and nobody brings him to the birthday. So this goes on year after year after year, and then all of a sudden, Johnny's given up. He's like, they're just going to have a birthday without me, so I don't really care about this birthday thing anymore. Well, one day they invite him to the birthday, and he gets in there, and he's like, this isn't what I expected. I wanted cake and party candles and all this other stuff, and that wasn't what it was. So think about Johnny's birthday and think about the IEP process. The IEP process is there to help support him, and if he doesn't ever get to attend it, he's not going to be able to give back feedback that we need. Encouragement. We need to empower our educators to foster strong partnerships with the families for the student benefit. It's not just special education's problem to foster with the parents that strong collaboration. We need our general education teachers to be just as invested in the child and the family as we are, and we know that we want to be involved with them. So we've got to talk. We've got to be able to have that conversation with the parent. We need to listen to the parent. We need to have the parent listen to us as well. If it ever gets tense or anything like that, if you're on a phone conversation or even in person at the IEP meeting, you can take a break. You can say, hey, I think we need to take a break. Can we come back? Maybe go get a drink of water, take a walk. If you're on the phone, hey, I need to take a break. Can I call you back in an hour or so? not lying, just saying, I need a break, does not hurt anything. So, and then come back when, heads are back level and even, and just pick up and say, okay, this is where we left off. I want to come up with a good solution with you. How can we get there? So furthering learning, explore resources and trainings for deeper understanding and improved practices. Special education is always evolving. It's always changing. There's always new research that's coming out. Be that constant learner. Always strive, always think, I need to know what's coming next. I want to be ahead of the game, so I want to learn what's new, what's coming down the pipeline. So go to your Region 6, or go to your regions for trainings. Keep those different trainings that are available out there. Ask your district, hey, can I get sent to this? Maybe your district has the money to send you. Maybe they don't, so you may have to pay out of pocket, unfortunately. But some of the trainings are also free that are provided through the regions. And so, again, be that constant learner, be that forever learner. Always have that open mindset that you're going to do what's best for the student and what's best for the family. So in conclusion, just kind of wrapping things up, does anybody have questions that I can answer? Okay, it's pretty silent out there, so I see a couple people that are kind of itching to maybe take a quick little break, that sort of thing. So if you have any questions, I will be here after this for probably another 30 to 45 minutes, so feel free to come and talk to me at any point in time. I appreciate your time this evening, or this afternoon, excuse me. I know it's probably working closer into the evening.